and eventually we'll get to it. Good morning. I'm New York City Controller Brad Lander, and I'm proud to be out here with this great coalition of New Yorkers. If there is a week in New York City when you can clearly see the need for better mass transit, for less traffic in our city, for cleaner air, for reduced emissions, it is this week. This week is Climate Week. This week is the peak of the hurricane season, and you can see that right now in Florida. And this week has been the UN General Assembly, when traffic in Midtown moved to a snarl and basically no one can move anywhere. Congestion pricing now. 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 You can see those things clearer and clearer all summer long. Who you're being rude to? Who you're being rude to, Christopher, is not to me. You're being rude to the set of people who would like to have their voice heard. So if you're going to keep being rude to them, we're going to keep chanting. But I think what would really be great is if you would let these New Yorkers be heard, and then you guys can be heard as well. Look, you can see clearer than ever the need for better mass transit. All summer long, New Yorkers waited on sweaty subway platforms for trains that didn't come. You can clearly see the need for more accessible subway stations. The MTA's made clear it's going to cancel 23 elevator projects if congestion pricing doesn't go through, denying subway access to many of the people that are standing here today. You can obviously the need. All right, you guys, again, the people that you're being rude to are not to me. You're being rude to these other New Yorkers. So we're just going to chant again and wait until you give these folks time to speak. Congestion pricing now. 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 In addition, congestion pricing now. 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 I do want to make sure we get to the folks who came to have their voices heard today, so I'm hoping we can do that. I'll wrap up my remarks quickly, and then we'll make sure that the folks who came to speak this morning are the ones who get their voices heard. But let's be clear. Congestion pricing is the only policy that can deliver $15 billion of subway improvements, that can deliver reduced traffic, that can deliver reduced emissions, that can deliver the modern subway signals and the elevators in the accessible stations that New Yorkers are demanding, and the only policy that can deliver lower traffic during UNGA and every other week, and cleaner air. In addition to delivering all those things, in addition to the fact that it's the only policy that can deliver all those things, it is the law of New York State. Am I right? And that's really why we're here this morning, because today in court, 2 lawsuits are going to be heard making very clear that congestion pricing is the law of the land. And you're going to hear both about congestion pricing now, congestion pricing now, congestion pricing now. So how about, so we're going to hear about We're going to hear about both of those lawsuits, City Club versus, all right. Congestion pricing now. 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 I'm going to offer you guys. So how about we're going to hear about both of those lawsuits. We're going to hear about City Club versus Hochul, and we're going to hear about Riders Alliance versus Hochul. And I propose that you stop hearing from me and you start hearing from the plaintiffs and the attorneys that are bringing those lawsuits. Hopefully these guys will decide that it's worth listening to the New Yorkers who showed up today. Do you want to try to go first? Great. All right, very good. One of the most esteemed environmental lawyers in the United States has been captaining our work on these lawsuits. He brought together a great coalition of attorneys and plaintiffs and helped shape the legal strategy that is in court today, making clear that congestion pricing is the law of New York State. And it is my great honor to introduce Mike Girard, a professor at Columbia Law School. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Michael Girard. I'm a professor at Columbia Law School, and I'm helping to coordinate the legal efforts today. Today, the New York State Supreme Court is hearing arguments in two lawsuits. One was brought by City Club and several individuals against the governor and the State Department of Transportation, saying that a 2019 statute requires the MTA to implement congestion pricing, and that the governor did not have the authority to stop it. The other lawsuit was brought by the Riders Alliance and the Sierra Club and the New York Environmental Justice Alliance, saying that the stopping of congestion pricing violated the New York Climate Protection and Community Protection Act and the Green Amendment to the state constitution. Both lawsuits are asking the court to say that the governor did not have the authority to stop congestion pricing and that the State Department of Transportation needs to go forward. I don't expect the court to issue its ruling today. The court will probably reserve decision and we'll hear later on what the decision is. So I'm going to go into the courtroom now, but I hope to see many of you later at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Congestion pricing now. 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 One of the greatest champions of mass transit in New York City in recent decades is Congressman Jerry Nadler. I really hope, guys, that you won't disrespect the congressman. You could disrespect me all you want, but Jerry Nadler has been fighting for our city and for mass transit for many decades.
Thank you very much. I am thrilled to be... Why don't you hold your own press conference? I am thrilled to be here with the Riders Alliance, the City Club, and other advocates ahead of the opening arguments of their critical lawsuits to once again remind Governor Hochul that congestion pricing is the law of the land in New York. I'm proud to support these lawsuits, and I'm grateful to the legal teams for their hard work. And last month, I proudly joined a coalition of environmental advocates, business organizations, transportation experts, and MTA board members in filing an amicus brief in support of the Riders Alliance suit. The lawsuits plainly show that the governor's indefinite pause of congestion pricing is both wrong and unlawful. The governor cannot simply ignore the will of the state legislature after the tolling plan was signed into law in 2019. That law states that the MTA board, quote, shall plan, design, install, construct, and maintain a central business district toll collection system, close quote. It doesn't say may, it says shall. It is not optional. The lawsuits also detail how the governor's pause has negatively impacted New Yorkers' quality of life, public health, and the sustainability of our public transit system. It's clear that after years of delays, we need congestion pricing now more than ever to reduce paralyzing vehicle traffic, to improve air quality by cutting carbon emissions, and to raise desperately needed capital funds to safeguard and enhance our public transit system. Instead, as a result of the governor's so-called indefinite pause, New York City continues to have the slowest average bus speeds in the country, and ambulance response times are increasing. New York City continues to have one of the country's highest rates of hospitalization and death due to asthma among children and young adults. And the MTA has a $16.5 billion hole in its capital plan, threatening critical projects like the 2nd Avenue subway expansion. Only the implementation of congestion pricing can right these wrongs. We have ample evidence from other cities around the world, London, Stockholm, Singapore, where similar congestion pricing systems have been successfully implemented. In each of these places, congestion dropped, public transportation flourished, and air quality improved. If they can do it, why can't we? I'm proud to support these lawsuits because safer and less congested streets, cleaner air, better health, and better public health, and the long-term health of our public transit system are worth fighting for. While I firmly believe these lawsuits will be successful, I once again implore the governor to find the courage to follow the law and implement congestion pricing as enacted by the legislature without delay. The people of New York City have waited long enough. The time to move forward on congestion pricing is now. Thank you.
Congestion pricing now. Congestion pricing now. Congestion pricing now. Congestion pricing now.
I think we should try to say like, thank you, Jerry. So thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. All right, our next intrepid speaker will be the plaintiff who is bringing the first lawsuit that really, if you've read the papers, makes plain as day that congestion pricing is the law of New York State. And so it is my pleasure to introduce the president of the City Club of New York, Leila Law-Gisico.
Thank you. Thank you, Comptroller. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Congressman. My name is Leila Law-Gisico. I'm the president of the City Club of New York. We're the lead plaintiff in one of the two lawsuits about to be heard this morning. And I want to thank all the advocates who are here. I want to also acknowledge that, it is a very controversial policy. And we're going to have to work together so that we can actually move forward. Everyday New Yorkers deserve congestion pricing, and I want to thank the Comptroller for his leadership. I want to also thank Richard Emery and Andrew Celli, our attorneys, for their brilliance. The City Club of New York is a civic organization focused on good government and urbanism, and we're here today to address the critical issue that strikes at the heart of our democratic system, which is the separation of powers. Congestion pricing is the law. Congestion pricing is the law. Our legal case is about the fundamental principle that no elected official, not even a governor, can override laws that have been passed by the legislature and signed into law by a previous governor. By attempting to delay or derail congestion pricing, Governor Hochul has overstepped her boundaries. She cannot, by executive edict, effectively veto a legislation that has already become the law. This overreach threatens the stability of our legislative system and undermines the balance of power that is crucial to maintaining a functional democracy. The MTA last week announced in its next capital plan that our transportation authority needs $65 billion in the next 5 years to bring the system to a state of good repair. And that staggering number does not even include Penn Station. Congestion pricing revenue represents almost a quarter of this budget. The delay in implementing congestion pricing is not only lost revenue, but it also jeopardizes vital federal grants, funds that are essential to all, including those who are screaming behind us, who use public transportation and who deserve a functional system. Let's make sure that New York State as a whole, it is not a city issue, it is a state issue, it is a regional issue. Let's make sure that we have the funding that we need to bring our public transportation to a level that will get us out of our cars. We cannot afford to lose these opportunities because one official is stepping outside of the limits of her power. When an elected official overreaches, it is the responsibility of the courts to step in, uphold the rule of the law, and compel her to stay within the bounds of her authority. Thank you.
All right, can we say thank you to Layla as well, please? Thank you, Layla. Thank you, Layla.
Fortunately, inside the courtroom, the judge will be able to hear the City Club lawsuit without interruption from our Trump-supporting friends. Out here, we do respect their free speech rights, even if it is pretty rude. All right, so let's see. We have not one, but two lawsuits today. The first one, as you have hopefully heard, from City Club, which makes clear that congestion pricing just is the law of New York State and that the governor doesn't have the authority to block it. The second lawsuit focuses on the environmental laws of the state and how the pause on congestion pricing is incompatible with them. And so our next intrepid speaker, with gratitude for all Riders Alliance does on behalf of the subway and bus riders in New York City, is Dana Dennis, senior organizer of Riders Alliance.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Dana Dennis. I'm a senior organizer of Riders Alliance. I definitely took the PATH train and then the E train here, but it's okay. And I own a vehicle, which tells you even more how much I support congestion pricing, because when I do drive my vehicle, I have no problem paying the fee. Why? Because as a lifelong New Yorker, I know that I have to wait for long buses that are slow, delayed trains too many times in my life. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. It's okay. Christopher's got to get his own press conference, and then maybe we can all go and join him. And you're right. New Yorkers all across New York City, millions of them, specifically the folks that are marginalized, black and brown folks, immigrant riders, low-income riders, need to know that congestion pricing is for them. And Governor Kathy Hochul has done an injustice across this city and furthermore across this state, right, by hurting and harming them and stopping congestion pricing. This is a progressive policy. It is 100% funding that we need to go to the capital fixes. So for every rider that's ever waited on a slow bus, a delayed train, an elevator, please call your governor and let her know what you have been through and the hardships that you are going through. All the way to the riders in Buffalo, because maybe that's the issue. Maybe our governor has not rode the train enough with luggage, with a baby stroller, in a wheelchair. Maybe she's never been late to work or a meeting, had to get a note for her boss, or almost get fired. Maybe she needs to come out here and be with us. And I want to make sure that all of the New Yorkers know, and especially those that are facing a hardship right now, right? Because we know what it's like to balance a life in this city. Folks are struggling to put food on the table and pay their rent. And on top of that, you have to deal with the hardship of transit. Christopher, thank you. Thank you. It's fine. It's fine. This is what we see as passion. And it is actually what drives me in my work, I will say. Because what you see here, this display, this is really misinformation is the best word that I can put on it. There are so many New Yorkers who are misinformed about this policy, and rightfully so. Because the predecessor of the governor that we have now and those before her, right, leadership of our great state has failed transit riders. So of course people don't trust policies. Of course people are looking at it a second and third time, making sure that we're getting what we need. But those of us who stand here understand that this is the best shot we have. There is no alternative to congestion pricing on the table. There's nothing else that's gonna bring us the funding. Thank you. This is it. And these gentlemen here, I guarantee you they probably took transit here. All the more why they should support this program. Everyone here, born and raised in New York City, educated in New York City, and fighting for policy still in New York City. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Dana. All right, we've got a couple more folks from Riders Alliance because they are building rider power, representing the voices of subway and bus riders in New York City. And it's my pleasure to introduce one of them, George Bettman. I'll ask our friends again not to be rude to George. There's really no reason. Guys, come on, you're better than this. Please don't be rude to George.
Good morning, everyone. My name is George, and I am a Riders Alliance member from Brooklyn. I am here to speak on the need to unforce congestion pricing as soon as possible. For decades, fares continue to go up with no noticeable improvement in service. This is in good part because after years of divestment, our bus and subway systems need so much work on its infrastructure, such as an improved signaling system for the subways, tracks, maintenance, and the installations of escalators and elevators so people with disabilities can access the subways and buses. There are a large number of riders, including myself, that depend on escalators and elevators to get around the subway system. We often walk far distances and travel way out of our way just to find one of the few accessible stations, only to find out that the elevator is broken. What happens next? We are left stranded. Governor Kathy Hochul needs to do better now, and that means investing in our transit system. That is why I am here today, to get the necessary funding, to get the infrastructure changes made, and to improve bus and subway service. The money that congestion pricing will bring in will do so much to improve our transit system. The MTA needs this money and needs this money now. We can't wait any longer to implement congestion pricing. Thank you very much for your attendance.
All right, next up is Norma Jinez from Riders Alliance as well. Thank you, Norma.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Norma Jinez. I'm a mother of 3 children. I use public transportation. I am representing the Bronx. And I need and implore Governor Hochul to pass congestion pricing because I need it. And we all need it in the Bronx. We are the forgotten borough. And I deserve accessibility, transit to be on time. Okay? I just want to implore that because at the same time, I understand everybody wants to have a voice, but there's a lot of money to go around. We are New York City, and Governor Hartruck needs to step it up. That's all I implore on that right now. Thank you.
All right, we've talked about the need to reduce emissions and clean the air. This is Climate Week, and this is one of the critical policies for New York in reducing emissions. That's why Sierra Club is part of the Riders Alliance versus Hochul lawsuit. And our next speaker is Carl Palmquist from Sierra Club.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name's Carl Palmquist, and I'm the chairperson for the Sierra Club New York City group, as well as the director with the club's national board. I'm also a scientist, and what I can say conclusively is that the facts are on the side of congestion pricing. Science supports it, communities support it. The Sierra Club's 15,000 members in New York City support it, including members who live in the congestion pricing zone. Stockholm did it, Milan did it, Singapore did it. Heck, when London did it, nitrogen oxide levels, a pollutant that at low levels irritates your eyes, nose, and throat, decreased by nearly 13%. PM 2.5, the tiny particles that come from exhaust and microplastics from tires that get inside your body, get embedded in your tissues, they decreased by 1/5. But where is New York on that list of cities? We're a leader, and that's why Climate Week happens here. We passed Local Law 97, one of the most ambitious policies addressing emissions from buildings. Last year, we passed Local Law 140, a bill that aggressively paves the way for New York City to have the greenest municipal fleet in the world. These were key solutions as we fight climate change, solutions that made us a global leader and that were based in science, policies like congestion pricing. New Yorkers have the courage to do great things, and we need to act now. The reason we're here today is because we no longer need to just impress upon the governor that congestion pricing is an important solution. We need to fight like our lives depend on it, because they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. In addition to the environmental benefits, a huge element of the need for congestion pricing is to make our subways accessible. And we've already seen that the cancellation or the pause on congestion pricing is leading to the cancellation of 23 elevator projects. That will not stand. New Yorkers with disabilities, New Yorkers demanding disability justice have done too much work to fight for an accessible system. And we're going to hear next from the president of the Center for the Independence of the Disabled of New York, or Sydney, the great advocate, Dr. Sharon McLennan-Weir.
Thank you. Good morning, Good morning, everyone. This way? This way, okay. Good morning, everyone. Okay, all right. I'm here to talk about the disabled community. We have been waiting since the 1970s to have accessible trains, to have accessible buses. We have to get to work like everybody do. We have to protest like all of you have to do. We want to go to school just like you want to do. We want to be able to go to a place of worship just like you need to do. But some of us can't drive. I can't drive. I want an accessible subway system that I can get to work and not have to worry about being late or dying. I am a survivor of a fall in a subway track in 2015. I am here to talk about the need for safety in the subway, and I don't care who pays for it. We all need to pay for it. Accessible stations need to happen all over the system, not just in Manhattan, but in the Bronx, in Queens, in Staten Island, and in Brooklyn. It's not about economics, it's about survival. I know you're upset, but when you're disabled, you don't have a choice. You have to take the bus or the train, because like everybody else, we pay taxes and we want to get to work as well. So please, we're tired of waiting. It is 2024. We've been waiting for decades, and it's time for the elevators to be installed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharon. That was great.
I want to say something to the hecklers. I want to say something to the people who are anti-congestion pricing here. I want to talk to you. You are entitled to your views. You are entitled to your views. You are entitled to disagree with us. You are not entitled to try to drown out free speech. What you are doing is a profound insult to the First Amendment. You are entitled to your views. You're entitled to organize your own press conference. You're entitled to express yourselves. You are not entitled to try to prevent the expression of other people's views.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, Dr. Sharon. We have some extraordinary advocates for civil rights, for civil liberties, for disability justice, for transit up here. And we're proud we're getting our day in court, too. All right. We've got 3 more speakers. I'm going to introduce them all and then they're going to go one by one, and hopefully they'll get a little bit of grace from folks who have the right to have their voices heard, but not to shout others down, as the Congressman said. So it is my pleasure to invite up 3 great advocates for the environment and for transportation. Julie Teig, the president of the New York League of Conservation Voters. Let's hear it for Julie. Chris Schuyler, managing attorney of the Disability Justice Program at New York Lawyers in the Public Interest. And Sean Garcia, director of advocacy at Transportation Alternatives. Julie, you're first.
Good morning, everyone. Do we want less traffic? Yes. Do we want less cleaner air? Yes. Do we want better subways and buses and trains? Yes. I'm Julie Teig, I'm president of the New York League of Conservation Voters. We're a statewide advocacy group that fights for climate action, clean transportation through political action. We elect for the environment. We are proud to stand with Comptroller Lander and the Riders Alliance and Sierra Club and Earth Justice and City Club and Disability Advocates and so many more. It feels wrong that on the last day of Climate Week and the UN General Assembly, a week when we should be showcasing to the world bold climate leadership, that we have to fight a battle that we thought we had won already. For cleaner air, for less gridlock, for big investments in the buses and subways and trains that millions of people ride every single day. We are in front of this courthouse for one simple reason. Congestion pricing is the law of the land. Signed, sealed, and it's time to deliver. So who does the congestion pricing clause really hurt? Everyday New Yorkers. Nobody more than low-income people and people who live in communities of color. People who rely on mass transit, which is the majority of people in this region. People who are suffering from the health impacts of air pollution from tailpipes. This summer, New York City experienced over a dozen air quality alerts, and that has real consequences. Asthma is the #1 cause of school absences. 1 in 10 children in New York have asthma, and that number is appalling. 1/4 of children who live in low-income communities. New Yorkers are literally being choked by pollution that gridlock produces from tailpipe emissions. I read the environmental study, and the environmental study says every single county in the region, 32 counties, will have less pollution because of the congestion pricing. We're going to have less particulate matter, we're going to have less toxic air pollution, and we're going to have better health. That's something we all want. New York has the worst traffic in the entire country. It's costing us time and money and our health. It delays our buses and our ambulances and our emergency vehicles. And this hurts everyone, especially the most vulnerable. We need a transportation policy that cuts traffic and improves air quality and invests in mass transit. For the millions of people who ride our transit system every day, congestion pricing will do all of that. This is not an open question. It has been asked and answered again. We want to unpause the pause. New Yorkers deserve cleaner air and less traffic and a world-class transit system. We need congestion pricing now because we can't drive our way out of the climate crisis. So what do we need? Congestion pricing now! Congestion pricing now! Congestion pricing now! Thank you!
Good morning, everybody. I'm a person who stutters. Among the groups most impacted by the congestion pricing pause are people with disabilities. The 2020-2024 capital plan promised $5 billion to accessibility improvements. As a result of the pause, $2 billion of that money has been put in limbo. The real-world impact of that means that 23 stations scheduled to get elevators and other accessibility improvements need to wait longer. People with disabilities rely on accessible transit to get to work, school, medical appointments, visit friends and family, to fully participate in all that New York City has to offer. Community integration is a central goal of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was passed over 35 years ago. Yet the MTA has delayed and dragged its feet in making subway accessible. Currently, there are fewer than 30% of stations have elevators, saying nothing of other unaddressed accessibility issues, such as dangerous gaps between trains and platforms. People with disabilities need an accessible subway system now, not tomorrow. Moreover, people with disabilities are counting on the MTA to make the subway accessible, in part because other modes of mass transit, buses, taxis, Ubers, and Lyfts, are slower, cost-prohibitive, and inaccessible, and sometimes all three. Improved subway accessibility could even lessen the reliance on accessorized paratransit, which would benefit the MTA's year-over-year operating costs. Other potential funding sources are inadequate, will cause further delays, and none achieve the three goals of congestion pricing: reduce gridlock, fund transit, and improve air quality. Congestion pricing is the solution. It's the law, and it's ready to go. Accessibility delayed is accessibility denied. Governor Hochul once promised to ensure that New York is accessible for all. Now is the time to make good on that promise and flip the switch.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Garcia. I'm the Director of Advocacy at Transportation Alternatives. It's in these moments that we realize we're standing on the right side of history, right? It's in these moments. You know, I really want to speak to the false narrative that the governor and many have been saying around the unjust impact of congestion pricing on communities of color. And I want to say, well, we know all the studies show that that is false and the exact opposite of reality. There will be no unjust burden on communities of color. There will be no unjust impact on communities of color. What we do know, and what communities of color deal with every day, is the fact that we have an environmental crisis in a city that has no plan in place to deal with that crisis. But we have a solution: congestion pricing. We have the unjust burden of having inaccessible and unreliable public transportation that communities of color feel the impact and burden of every day. We have the reality of congestion in our streets and highways tearing through our neighborhoods. Congestion that's creating unsafe conditions and further environmental impacts. We deal with that every day. Our children are inheriting a city that has provided no real solutions, and we have solutions in congestion pricing, but now we have political leadership that does not have the courage to follow through with the law of the land. We are not going to continue to allow Governor Hochul to block congestion pricing and further exacerbate these unjust conditions. And you know what else will not stop? What we will not stop doing? What are we doing today and what we will continue doing tomorrow is the fight back. The fight back for congestion pricing. What do we want? When do we need it? Now. What do we want? Congestion pricing. When do we need it? Now. Thank you so much.
try to do Q&A over the hecklers. Well, the good news is that our lawyers are going to go in and have their voices heard in court. Their papers are fantastic. Their arguments will be great. We'll see what happens after the suit and come out, and if there's something to report, do an avail afterwards. So let's close out with, I think, a couple of things. First, let's say thank you to our speakers. All right, so thank you, speakers. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, speakers. I'd like to give just a little advice to our friends for next time. So let's do try being polite. Can we try that? Try being polite. Try being polite. Try being polite. Try being polite. We'll close out congestion pricing now. Congestion pricing now. Congestion pricing now. Thank you guys very much. Congestion pricing now. Congestion pricing.